you're supposed to take this whooping. Christ was not a masochist. He wasn't going around asking people to slap him, but he was just saying that his word was his bond. That if you go around slapping him, you're not going to control him for him to kill you, but he will control himself, and he will do what is instructed from on high to achieve the overall objective of peace and understanding. That's an entirely different subject. We will go into all religion and even into church or into Bible, everything. All your questions will be answered. So please don't try to get ahead of the teaching and just follow along. It's just like a conveyor belt. Just ride it along and ride it along. At the end, I'll say, okay, that's it. You got the total instruction. Now, I'm not changing. I'm not asking you to go in any religion. I'm not asking you to join any society. I'm not asking you for anything. I mean, if anything, I'll ask you to subscribe, but that's just for your benefit. I'm just saying, follow along. That once you receive the teaching, you are the master. Then you go out there and you can help others to help themselves. If you try to use this in a cruel fashion, you're going to be destroyed, because the other people that truly mastered it is going to demolish you. By the time you open your mouth and you're on your second action or second word, you'll be destroyed, because they have now awakened. And that's the whole beauty of this whole thing. Again, everything is going to become short. I know some of it may seem long. I'm going to try to just cut corners as much as possible, just to make it as quickly, as efficiently as possible. If somebody wants the whole entirety written in a book form for historical referencing, then we can do that. But in the meantime, my objective is just to give the full teaching so that we can possibly stop all this hemorrhaging. So again, it's okay to be angry, but not okay when it turns into hurting others, physically or verbally, which is an issue of great concern. Sometimes anger will go into arguing, and then from arguing into hurting. You may already have a solution in case, again, the hitting take place, such as restraining another person, or to call the police and so on, or just to position, location, and direction. Move away from the person. See if their objective is just to hurt, or if their objective is just that they're angry, just they really don't want to be harassed and harangued at that particular time, as opposed to others who have no tactics and cause severe injury to others. There are those who just simply walk away, and some may humble themselves even in a situation is different. You need to know all the exact circumstances in order to come up with a proper conclusion and solution. But I do suggest that you come up with a positive solution in every particular situation, and do not let other people's anger and ignorance rob you of your joy and peace. There are negative people out there who would like nothing more than to anger you for some reason or other. Preferably, some people would prefer to kill you. Some negative people project their anger, so you will latch on to the negative perception and projection. The girlfriends do that too. They'll be like, oh girl, you don't need him, forget about that guy. Because they don't want you to be happy. It's like a demon possessing you, saying, see what they said, see what they did, or perceiving it as incorrectly ahead, and then doing it back to them. Hurt them the way they hurt you, not understanding that it was your perception that created that predicament and belief and structure that you're in. But you need, or you can choose to have that strength to say no. Negative people might try to instigate and provoke you into an argument. You may want to use negative words for a positive motive, in which you begin a sentence with, I don't mean to be cruel, and then tell them how you feel, or I don't want to hurt you, and then hurt them, or tell them what they're doing wrong in such a way that you just kind of beating their head into the ground. Again, every situation is different. There may be times where you need to get angry, or where you may need to humble yourself. But let your actions or solutions be based on positive motives rather than a reaction to negative projection. It is also important to note that there is what is called righteousness. Now, righteousness looks like anger and rage, but there's a different feel to it because it's based on truth and love. Although negative individuals may try to mimic that behavior, but the whole taste or the whole emotional end conclusion is not the same. Acquiring this understanding to differentiate exactly how the words are put together so you know the meaning. So negative people will try to act like they're being right when they're putting you down, but they're not. They're putting you down, but trying to make it look like they're mimicking righteousness, but it's not righteousness. It's a make-believe righteousness because the entirety of the structure in which they delivered the projection didn't have the outcome of positiveness as it was intended. This is something to be wary of, because to differentiate a negative and a positive structure between righteousness and someone who's just who's playing holier than thou is attained by understanding the total structure and the words around past, present, and future to the entirety of the message. So to attain this mastery of yourself, one needs to have love and understanding within you so you can easily differentiate when people are trying to provoke you into anger or even try to get you to be self-defeated within yourself, so you in turn are not controlled by them and not inspired to hurt them, because your position is from love while theirs is from hate. And of course you will no longer be following such individuals because it's pure hate as opposed to love, and which following a negative individual is quintessentially being continuously negatively conditioned over time. Number 3 is arguing. There may be many reasons why people are arguing. It is usually a belief versus another belief, or an objective versus another objective. Arguing can be formulated by negative people who want problems to continue to keep you in the negative state. So they're continuing just to keep the negative state. Their objective wasn't about solutions, but to stay in a problem. As opposed to positive people whose objectives and solutions are to eradicate a negative problem entirely, to come into a common ground or a beneficial ground, if not for all, but for at least for your state of being. It is not positive versus negative. It is negative versus all else in order to control. So the negative is at war with everything. The positive has no enemies. It's not at war with anyone. Arguing isn't always especially bad if both parties are willing to yield to the truth, but there are those who want to argue for the sake of arguing and not yield in any direction other than they're right and you're wrong. So arguing with these kind of people, there is no winning or losing. For them, it's all winning and you're lost before you begun. And they use that in order to frustrate the opponent and see how long you can get them angry and how long you can continue to disrupt their anger and to interrupt, disrupt, and distract, keeping a negative environment so they can get you to react in such a way so they can continue to use it against you. You see how this wicked person is? Because the other person lacks the knowledge in order to not play that game or even be around such individuals. Then there is arguing logically and arguing illogically. The same goes for debating. You could debate logically, or you could debate illogically, as in using flawed reasoning, flawed or erroneous facts, flawed statistics, confusing statements, name-calling, changing the subject, erroneous bias, and so on, rather than dealing with the exact subject. If a person is projecting negatives, then an observing person perceives these negatives and who you are, and what you will determine whether there will be an argument for or against, that is, the person who is projecting. Negative people will often use more than one way of looking at something in order to argue. One of the many popular ways of using argument tactics is using incomplete sentences, semantics, lying, misinterpretation, misperception, or correcting another person when there is no need to be correcting the other person, just doing it to belittle you or highbrow you. If a negative person is talking, that means another person is perceiving, unless they're both talking at the same time. And this is how conditioning works, whether good or bad. So if someone is debating or communicating with you in such a way, it could be either building or to destroy. The person perceiving can perceive whatever they want, which can be done in 4 ways: from honest perception or a dishonest perception, meaning positive, negative, neutral, or it depends. Then you could use the truth or a lie to empower you, as a positive person will know that the action is negative, but at the same time is to know that you can use that negative to empower you, use it to your advantage. It's not to say that the negative was right because it was wrong, but being that you were positive, you have the ability to redirect it in such a way that you could use it to your benefit. Therefore, the positive structure always wins, and it's always beneficial, while the negative structure always uses things to destroy. How can I use this against them? How can I use this to destroy them? Not realizing that they're following a grid or following a order, a web, that they themselves are not orchestrating, but it's through this internal dialogue that it is directing them to a total outcome in which they will find themselves at the butt end they was trying to create for others. Otherwise, a negative projection is a message of negatives and may be done to condition you negatives, as in fear. The negative may choose to not argue at any point because of the contradiction of beliefs. A positive person may take a positive person's side in an argument, but just because you see 2 people arguing, it doesn't necessarily mean that the argument isn't planned or have an objective, and it could be just a ploy to get you involved in another argument in order to hurt you. So the objective looks like they're trying to hurt themselves, but they may be trying to hurt you, and it was only a ploy to lure you in to the web. Then there is a ping-pong effect, which is the argument is at a stalemate, and this is like 2 children who are arguing, and one another saying, "Yes, you are," and the other one saying, "No, I'm not." So, "Yes, you are." "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "You are." "No, you are." "You are." And they're going nowhere because they're not using logic. And neither one yielded the truth but pride. So this going over and over again. You just see them arguing, blah, 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 blah. And it's only a matter of time before the first fist is thrown or the first bomb is thrown. So one needs to know how to dialogue in order to direct a positive outcome. Just because someone has the last word, it does not mean that they're right, and it does not mean that they're wrong, or that they even won the argument. Just because someone is talking louder than another person does not mean that they're right. So some people are using that make-believe righteousness, and they're talking loud and they're angry and blah, 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 in order to for you to believe, oh, there's righteousness behind this person, when it's nothing more but negative energy vibrating to perceive something that it is not. In any conversation, there needs to be logic. In order to resolve a matter, and having logic is the ability to yield to truth. If someone is saying that they don't believe something or something another person disagrees with, back you have left is two opposing beliefs. One could be right and the other one could be wrong. They both can be right depending on truth of the matter or angle of perception. Many times one person is correct, which would make the other person incorrect. But beliefs gives you the ability to say the truth is a lie and lie is the truth. The negative belief does. It is your choice to either maintain a logical or illogical argument. Sometimes you can win an argument by agreeing with ludicrous statements of the opposing person, using rhetoric as logic, as in sarcasm. Sometimes you can win an argument by sticking to one point over and over again, because they may be trying to change the subject, and you can just come back to the same point in which you know it's exactly right and there's no way around it. Many times an argument will continue on to many other points rather than sticking to the one main point of the argument, which is the total sum of the whole argument, instead of continuing an argument over time. It may be best if one simply chooses to say what they believe and the other simply chooses to say what they believe, and then separate, because one or both sides may not be yielding to the truth, or that neither side believes the other to be true and is stuck on not yielding to truth. Many of today's big issues are not solved because of this type of reasoning and misunderstanding. Many times you will see two people arguing when there is no reason to argue, because neither person really knows the truth about what they're arguing about. Sometimes you may want to use that to your advantage and get the other person to agree, but there are those people that will disagree with you just because they believe that you are getting them to agree with you is your objective. This type of belief system is very negative because they are arguing for the sake of arguing, due to the fact that they believe that you just want them to agree with them. An example would be if someone says that they are for war and you say that you are against war. So you try to end the argument by saying, okay, well, you're for war and I'm against the war, which is the fact. Being true to their negative nature, they will say, no, that's incorrect, when they already proven that they were either for war or against war. So when you are standing there looking at them in disbelief, because now they're just contradicting what they just said a few minutes ago. Therefore, lying, making whatever they say from here on not credible. I don't know how anyone then who would want to continue to speak with someone who uses illogical forms of communication to justify confusion by being confusing and contradicting themselves. It is a logic that one can understand that arguing will not show the truth. It is also important not to hold resentment, although there are people that would try to get you to feel guilty by repeating something that they said at an earlier time, or to look at you with anger. So you could choose to maintain your positive direction and choose your positive structure. Otherwise, you are not left with free will, but being controlled by other individuals and by a logic that is illogical. You may want to separate yourself from someone who is using this tactic